The morning sun streamed through the stained glass windows of St. Matthew's Cathedral as Caroline adjusted her wedding veil one final time. At 28, she had dreamed of this day since childhood, and every detail was perfect. The ivory silk dress had been her grandmother's, carefully preserved and tailored to fit her slender frame. White roses adorned the wooden pews, and the scent of jasmine filled the air. What was not perfect was the empty space beside the altar where her fiancé should have been standing. Michael Harrison, heir to a real estate fortune worth $50 million, had vanished without a word. The guests, nearly 200 of the city's most prominent families, sat in uncomfortable silence as minutes ticked by. Caroline knelt at the altar steps, her hands covering her face as the reality of her situation slowly sank in. "Carolyn, sweetheart," her father whispered, approaching from the side aisle. "We have been trying to reach Michael for over an hour. His phone goes straight to voicemail." She looked up at her father through tears, seeing her own heartbreak reflected in his weathered face. "He promised me, Daddy. Last night he told me he could not wait to call me his wife." The wedding coordinator, a kind woman who had planned hundreds of ceremonies, knelt beside Caroline. "Perhaps there has been an emergency. Sometimes these things have simple explanations." But deep in her heart, Caroline knew better. Over the past month, Michael had grown increasingly distant. He had canceled their final dress rehearsal, claiming business obligations. When she had tried to discuss their honeymoon plans, he had seemed distracted and uncomfortable. The signs had been there, but love had made her blind to them. Father Mackenzie, who had known Caroline since her confirmation, approached with gentle compassion. "My dear, I think we must accept that Mr. Harrison is not coming. The question now is what you would like me to tell your guests." Caroline stood slowly, her wedding dress rustling against the marble floor. She looked out at the faces turned toward her, some filled with pity, others with curiosity, and a few with barely concealed judgment. These were people who had watched her grow up, who had celebrated her engagement, who had come to witness what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. "I will speak to them," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. Caroline walked to the center of the altar, her veil trailing behind her. The cathedral fell completely silent as she faced the congregation that had come to celebrate her marriage. "My friends and family," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the sacred space. "As you can see, there will be no wedding today. Michael has chosen not to honor his commitment, and while I do not understand his reasons, I must accept his decision." She paused, gathering her strength. "I want to thank each of you for being here, for the love you have shown me, and for the support I know you will continue to give me in the days ahead. The reception hall has been paid for, and the meal prepared. Please join my family there to celebrate not a marriage, but the bonds of friendship that have brought us all together." With dignity that belied her broken heart, Caroline walked back down the aisle alone, her head held high despite the tears streaming down her cheeks. 3 years passed before Caroline saw Michael again. She had rebuilt her life piece by piece, returning to her career as a pediatric nurse and finding purpose in caring for children who needed her. The pain of his abandonment had faded into a dull ache, replaced by a hard-won wisdom about the difference between someone who loved you and someone who loved the idea of you. It was at a charity gala for the children's hospital where she worked that their paths crossed again. Caroline had become the head of nursing and was being honored for her work with underprivileged families. She wore a simple navy dress, her blonde hair styled in an elegant updo, and carried herself with a confidence that had been forged in the fire of heartbreak and healing. She was speaking with the hospital's chief administrator when she felt a familiar presence. Turning, she found herself face to face with Michael Harrison. He looked older, his face bearing lines that had not been there 3 years ago. His expensive suit could not hide the fact that something essential had gone out of him. "Caroline," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "you look incredible." "Hello, Michael," she replied evenly, neither warm nor cold. "I heard you married Victoria Pemberton 6 months after our wedding date. Congratulations." Michael's expression tightened. "That marriage ended last year. It was a mistake. Everything since that day has been a mistake." Caroline studied his face, seeing the regret there but feeling nothing like the devastation she had once feared this moment would bring. "I am sorry to hear about your divorce. That must have been difficult." "Caroline, I need you to know how sorry I am. I panicked that morning. The thought of being responsible for someone else's happiness, of having to be the man you deserved, it terrified me. I was a coward," she nodded slowly. "Yes, you were, but your cowardice taught me something valuable, Michael. It taught me that I do not need someone to complete me. I needed to complete myself first." Michael stepped closer, his eyes desperate. "Is there any chance we could try again? I have spent 3 years realizing what I lost." Caroline smiled, but it was not the smile of a woman still in love. It was the smile of someone who had found peace. "The woman you left at that altar died the day you walked away, Michael. The person I am now would never have fallen in love with the man you were then. We were both too young, too afraid, too incomplete." As she spoke, Caroline noticed a man approaching from across the room. Dr. James Walsh, the hospital's newest surgeon, had become a close friend and recently something more. He was not wealthy like Michael, but he was present, consistent, and brave enough to love without reservation. "I hope you find happiness, Michael," Caroline said genuinely. "But you will not find it by trying to reclaim a past that was built on an unstable foundation. True love is not just about feelings. It is about showing up, especially when showing up is hard." As James reached her side and offered his arm, Caroline walked away from her past and toward a future built not on broken promises, but on the solid ground of mutual respect and genuine partnership. Sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is showing you who they really are before you waste your entire life discovering it.